Tanse, I'm Kahnawake. Welcome to APTN National News. Federal Liberal leader Mark Carney's campaign made a stop in Winnipeg today at a New Flyer Industries, a transit bus manufacturing plant. APTN News asked Carney about how he plans to affirm First Nations' right to consultation and accommodation, given his campaign talks about speeding up mineral extraction and energy projects. Here's what he had to say.
This is fundamental, and when I speak of projects of national interest, when I speak of, for example, critical mineral extraction, which is a tremendous opportunity for this country, but can only proceed if there is free, prior, and informed consent. Only proceed, in my judgment, if there's full participation from First Nations groups. And I have, on multiple occasions, unfortunately on multiple occasions, had to remind Mr. Poilievre of that fact. For him, he can fly into Iqaluit without consulting the premiers, without meeting with any First Nation groups, makes an announcement and flies back. For him, he can speak of building an energy corridor or building Energy East as a pipeline without mentioning First Nations. I always have that at the heart. And to make that more concrete and to make that a reality, as I just mentioned, we doubled, I'll round it to that, our Indigenous Loans Guarantees program, which is now $10 billion, which finances, to be clear, these aren't loans, these are loans for full investment participation if those First Nations choose to support a project and wish to be part owners. And we broadened it across from just whatever it was before, last point, from just energy across to a wide range of projects, which would include critical minerals. So it's there, but we're also putting it into action.
The Assembly of First Nations has released its 2025 general election priorities. The AFN has also released a list of 36 ridings where they believe First Nations people could determine the outcome. The AFN is asking for a response from every party leader on the 22 commitments issues like policing, the economy, and more. Here is part of our interview from this morning with National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak.
Oh, absolutely. Look, at this critical time in Canada's history, this federal election represents an important opportunity for each federal party to describe how they intend to build a strong and mutually beneficial relationship between the Crown and First Nations. So Canada's economic success and future stability depend on First Nations being full and equal partners in decision-making, because our rights are affirmed in, our inherent rights are affirmed in treaty, recognized in Canadian and international law, and they must be upheld. Look, over $560 billion of projects are forecasted to be launched on our traditional lands over the next decade. And the potential benefit of these projects is in the trillions of dollars. They represent a cornerstone of Canada's future economic growth. But I'm going to say, like, right off the bat, that many of these projects are not going to advance unless you have the support to First Nations. So I look to Canadians to begin to work with First Nations and build relationships. And so, prosperity, the document that we released today, Prosperity for All, it sets out key policy priorities where First Nations are seeking commitments from federal party leaders and all candidates related to economic reconciliation, the Canada-US trade and border mobility, the well-being of First Nations children, families, and future generations, the calls to action to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, and calls for justice of the National Inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. So this election is an opportunity for federal party leaders to renew their commitments to reconciliation and to demonstrate their readiness to realize the full potential of First Nations economy in this country. I guess the question is, not just if they support First Nations rights, the question is what actions will they take to uphold these rights? So Prosperity for All has been shared with each political party. The AFN has invited a response and offered to explore opportunities that can facilitate direct dialogue between chiefs and leaders. Last week, the AFN released analysis of the 2021 federal election results that confirms First Nation voters are likely to determine the outcome in dozens of electoral districts this month. So with the election underway, we encourage chiefs and First Nations across the country to engage federal leaders and their local candidates to make their voices heard over the coming weeks. The full prosperity for all First Nations priorities for the 2025 federal election. The document is available on the AFN website at www.afn.ca. So we look forward to meeting with, I've talked to all political parties already, and they've all agreed to meet with, with First Nations chiefs and leaders. And, we'll be coordinating that discussion between the leaders and First Nations in the weeks ahead.
And you can catch the rest of that interview with AFN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak on tonight's newscast with Dennis Ward. Green Party co-leader Jonathan Pedno was in Whitehorse on Monday, where he announced the party's new plan to tackle national defense. The Greens' National Civil Defense Corps plan aims to defend Canada while also promoting peace and emergency readiness. The plan entails creating 120,000 jobs in civil defense and providing free training for Canadians in areas like first air and cybersecurity awareness. It also includes increased funding for the Canadian Rangers and strengthening local defense initiatives led by Northern Indigenous communities. Pedno says the plan is not a call to militarization.
And this isn't about soldiers or missiles, this is about people. Our people, ensuring that we are ready to face fire, floods, cyber attacks, or foreign threats. That we are ready to serve and support one another, that we are ready to answer the call if and when needed.
A sexual assault trial in Manitoba for Christopher Travers began on Monday. He's the former chief of Lake St. Martin First Nation, and a warning, some of the details in this story are disturbing. On Monday, Manitoba's provincial court heard that on December of 2023, Travers allegedly forced a young girl into a bathroom in his home in Winnipeg, where he allegedly took photos of her and sexually assaulted her. The girl involved was only 8 years old at the time. Travers was arrested last year and charged with sexual assault, sexual interference, and child pornography, and has pleaded not guilty. Travers was first elected as chief of Lake St. Martin in July of 2022. The Southern Chiefs organization has now listed Councillor Brad Beardy as acting chief of the reserve there. The trial is scheduled for 2 days. Authorities in Regina, Saskatchewan are warning the public about a person who is considered to be at high risk of reoffense sexually. The Regina Police Service says 48-year-old Jason Paul Thorne is living in a home in the Heritage neighborhood in Regina. It will be supervising and monitoring Thorne's activities. Thorne has a criminal history that includes sexual offenses against female children. Upon his release, Thorne must not use drugs or alcohol, and he cannot be near places where children gather. Police warn the alert is intended to raise community awareness, and it's not to be used for unlawful activity against Thorne. Winnipeg police have identified the body of a man that was found in a dumpster in a back lane on Friday. He is 30-year-old Bronson Emery Dale Kakoidawe. Kakoidawe was living in Winnipeg but was originally from Zakome-Anishinaabeg in southeastern Saskatchewan. His family has been notified and the homicide unit is now investigating. Anyone with information is asked to call the homicide unit 204-986-6508 or Crime Stoppers. British Columbia RCMP are asking the public's help in locating an Indigenous elder who went missing in Richmond, BC last week. Richmond RCMP say 75-year-old Barbara Handslip has been missing since last Wednesday, March 26th, and police have concern for her well-being. She was last seen in the area of the Blundell Shopping Centre in Richmond, BC at around 9:50 a.m. Handslip does not live in Richmond and is unfamiliar with the area. A niece of Handslip tells APTN News her auntie is also not mentally stable, which makes the family more worried for her safety. She is Indigenous, 5 feet tall, 195 pounds with long black and gray hair. She was last seen wearing a blue jean jacket, blue jeans, a blue cap with rhinestones, and a peace sign, and was carrying a small black backpack. Anyone with information is asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. Court hearings for a $2.1 billion CFS class action lawsuit put forth by 3 First Nations in Manitoba began on Monday in Winnipeg. In a lawsuit they originally launched in October of 2022. The plaintiffs are Mississippiwistic Cree Nation Chief Heidi Cook, Black River Chief Sheldon Kent, Pimicikamak Chief David Monias, and the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. The statement of claims says they're seeking $2.1 billion in damages from Manitoba and Canada for First Nations harmed by the CFS system between 1992 and now. It alleges Canada and Manitoba failed to prioritize prevention and wellness services for First Nations children and families. This week, Manitoba Chief Justice Glenn Joyal will hear arguments to determine if the case should move forward as a class action lawsuit. Coming up next, we'll tell you about how an artist in Quebec has created one-of-a-kind Indigenous dolls. Plus, the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake removed its Grand Chief and Chief last week. Kahnawake is a Mohawk community located just outside of Montreal. Our APTN reporter Savannah Craig is looking into the situation. Here's a preview.
Last Thursday, the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake posted on its Facebook page a community notice announcing that the position of Grand Chief and Chief have been vacated. The announcement says the Ethics Commission of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake has confirmed that the position of Grand Chief, previously held by Victor Bonspiel, and the position of Chief, previously held by Valerie Bonspiel, have been vacated. APTN reached out to both sides involved in this matter and will be putting together a report for our viewers in the coming days.
Welcome back. Uniquely beautiful handcrafted Indigenous dolls are becoming a hot item to have. And for one Algonquin woman from Kittigan-Zibi in Quebec, she has created one-of-a-kind fashions. Here's APTN's Annette Francis with that story.
So what I first do is I trace the dress out on leather and I cut it out, and then I'll sew it right to her body. So there's no taking the clothes off. It's more for display.
Cassandra Tolley has honed her skills at indigenizing dolls. Her creations have become quite a hit.
They've been selling off the shelf. I can't even make them. I make them and they sell so fast.
The idea came to her in the summer of 2023.
So I had the doll laying around one day, and then I saw my material, my extra material from my jingle dress, and I figured, oh my God, I'll make the doll to match. So I did this to match my doll, and I bring her with me to powwows when I'm dressed up, and I, take photos with her and stuff. So I decided to make more dolls after that to represent different dancers and, drummers.
Her creativity is something that was passed down.
I learned from my mother, Charlene Tolley. I started doing earrings and dream catchers, and then I went on from there. So now I have a range of all kinds of things I do.
Tolley uses all natural materials as much as possible, like leather, shells, drums, feathers, and medicines. Each doll is one of a kind.
I did it's called the Red Moon Woman. She was designed after the blood moon we had the other day. And I worked on her all night, stayed up, got to take a picture with her with the moon. And in Anishinaabe, it's Miskwa Gisokwe, meaning red moon woman. And she also has a drum, which is made of real hide and real wood.
Her dolls sell upwards to $250 each, but for a child who wants one, she's willing to barter.
It's important for kids to see their culture in these dolls. And, when you go to a store, you just see the regular dolls, right? So this is something that they love, and they want to be like the doll. It's nice to see yourself in a doll, right?
So proud of her. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Kittigan-Zibi in Quebec.
Cool story. Thank you, Annette. Dene entrepreneur and advocate Tim Carwell is our guest on Face to Face tonight. Carwell established Gloria's Dreams Tree to honor the legacy of his mother, who he says was a 60 scoop survivor. Dreams Tree has funded more than 20 projects in the past few years. Here's a preview.
My mom's resilience is an inspiration. My mom's ability to not pass on the hurt and harm that she received when she was stolen is something that moves me to help the community, no matter where I am, and take an approach that is more based on reciprocity, balance, than telling the story all the time. But she's always on my mind. I lost her last year on April 12th, and so the mission has become even more important.
We now want to tell you about this week's new web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, do you think a federal law banning residential school denialism is enforceable? Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. Have your say at www.aptnnews.ca. Our Tina House is up next to give us a full breakdown of everything Indigenous at this year's Junos in Vancouver. We'll be right back. On the East Coast, rain in Charlottetown and 8, Halifax sunny and 10. Cartwright -8, La Grande River partly cloudy and -19. Quebec City -1, Gaspé 0. Ottawa 0, North Bay -8. Sudbury -7, Sioux Lookout -10. -11 in Norway House, God's Lake -17 and sun. -6 in Gimli, Princess Harbour -9. -4 in Yorkton and rain, Regina -3. -13 in La Ronge, Buffalo Narrows, sun and -5. Grand Prairie 1, Peace River 3. Edmonton 5, Calgary -1. Vancouver 12, Kamloops 13. 1 in Fort Nelson, Smithers 9. 0 in Watson Lake, Beaver Creek 3. Yellowknife -10, Wati -9. -14 in Sax Harbor, Inuvik -6. -19 in Chesterfield, Whale Cove -17. And Iqaluit -19, Agulik -24. Thanks for staying with us. The 2025 Juno Awards wrapped up Sunday night in Vancouver. From the orange carpet to the big stage and to the historic wins, Indigenous talent from across the country shined bright. APTN's Tina House was there and has this breakdown of the winners.
The Junos 2025 rolled into Vancouver with a bang as the best of Canadian talent came to celebrate and be honored for their achievements. Kicking it off with a week-long block party hosted by Let's Hear It BC. For 5 days, all across the city, audiences were treated to free live performances and their chance at holding the coveted Juno for photo ops. Here at the Carnegie Community Centre, more free concerts showcased Juno nominees, including Adrian Sutherland, who comes from James Bay, Ontario. And this year, there were 67 nominations for the 20 Indigenous artists who were nominated. Adrian was nominated in the Contemporary Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year category.
This is a huge number. I think it's a huge win, and it's a real, it's really good for music, overall. So awesome, and congratulations to all of the other Indigenous artists and nominees.
And many of those artists were nominated in mainstream categories. The Snotty Nose Rez Kids were up for Rap Album of the Year, which was announced at a gala the night before the televised awards.
And the Juno for Rap Album EP goes to, should we say together? Snotty.
We caught up with the Snotty Nose Rez Kids to talk about their first time win.
Enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
Enjoying the moment.
It was a moment that was able to like freeze time for us. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Rap Album of the Year, Juno's 2025. Did you guys think this would ever happen?
Yeah, I did think this was gonna happen, and I thought it was gonna happen for this album. And you know, like that's what it is about Red Future. It's about seeing yourself in where you want to be. You know, and that's like just to go, like even our the single of the year, we got a nomination for that, Big Braid Energy. It's about finding your confidence, finding who you are, and just being proud of that.
Here on the orange carpet, it was the who's who in the music industry, including rapper Maestro Fresh West.
I'm excited to perform, man. I'm opening it up with Michael Bublé. You know what I'm saying? So you got Bublé and you got some bars, so it's gonna be dope.
Canadian rocker Sum 41 also walked the carpet and played their final show at the awards. Elissa P., who is from Saluit, Nunavik, won a mainstream category Juno Award for Adult Alternative Album of the Year, which was announced on Saturday night at the gala.
I'm just very moved to see how this album and what I do, the songs that I bring out there have an impact on people. I think that's such a privilege. So I'm just want to say, I love you, I feel you, I just want to, I'm just really happy also that everything feels like things are widening up and getting bigger, and we can actually feel like we are being seen and heard, and we can fly high.
Tia Woods from the Saddle Lake Cree First Nation was also nominated in the Contemporary Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year category. She's performing for the live televised awards. She walked the orange carpet with her mom and grandma by her side.
I always say, you know, whenever I step onto any stage or into any room, I have the strength of my people on me, you know, like my res, the matriarchs that have come before me. And, you know, I would just say, you know, we're at a very special time right now when it comes to Indigenous representation. We're just at the brink of it. You know, we're seeing ourselves on runways and on the radio and on TV, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, and it's coming. There's a wave coming.
I love it. What do you want to say about your granddaughter tonight?
Oh, I feel like I won the Juno, just being there. I'm so proud of her.
Sebastian Gaskin won the Contemporary Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year Juno Award, and the Black Bear Singers walked away with the Traditional Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year Juno Award.
It feels really good. It's like a huge accomplishment for the group, for the families back home.
And finally, it was time for the Snotty Nose Res Kids and Tia Wood to perform live at the 2025 Juno Awards. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Tuesday. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masichao kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.